Jake Mitchell was supposed to be home 2 hours ago. His mom would be worried sick, but he couldn't help himself. The old mining trail behind his house had always called to him, whispering promises of adventure. Today, he'd gone farther than ever before, past the rusted warning signs and into the part of the valley people called Cursed. That's when the ground shook. Jake hit the dirt as a massive tremor rolled through the earth. Rocks tumbled down the hillside, and a plume of black smoke rose from somewhere deeper in the valley. His first instinct was to run home, but curiosity won. He was 12 years old and stupid brave, as his dad used to say before the accident. The crater was enormous, easily 50 feet across. And in the center of it lay something that made Jake's breath catch in his throat. At first, he thought it was a crashed spaceship. Earth had been part of the galactic community for 5 years now, so alien visitors weren't exactly rare anymore. But as Jake crept closer, sliding down the loose gravel, he realized this was no ship. It was alive. The creature was the size of a school bus, covered in scales that might have once gleamed like polished metal but now looked dull and cracked. Massive wings lay crumpled beneath its body. One golden eye, half-lidded and dim, tracked Jake's movement. The boy froze. He'd seen pictures of dragons in his history files at school. The galactic database said they were ancient, powerful, mysterious. They'd helped younger species reach the stars thousands of years ago. But nobody ever saw them anymore. They kept to themselves in distant corners of space. Please. The voice appeared directly in Jake's mind, weak and desperate. Please don't leave me alone. Jake's heart hammered. The dragon was speaking to him. Actually speaking, without moving its mouth, the words forming inside his head like his own thoughts but different somehow. I won't, Jake heard himself say. He didn't know why he said it. Any sane person would have run. This thing could probably eat him in one bite, even injured. But something in that voice, in that plea, made running impossible. The dragon's eye focused on him more clearly. You are human. Young. You should not be here. This place is dangerous. You're hurt, Jake said, finding his courage in moving closer. The heat radiating from the dragon's body was intense, like standing next to a bonfire. Up close, he could see deep cracks in the scales, some of them oozing a strange silver liquid. What happened to you? I am dying, the dragon said simply. As all my kind are dying. The void rot has taken me. I came to this quiet place to die in peace, away from the stars. I did not mean to frighten your world with my landing. Jake's throat tightened. He didn't know what the void rot was, but the name alone sounded horrible. Can't anyone help you? There are hospitals here, and alien medical centers in the big cities. A sound like distant thunder rumbled from the dragon. It took Jake a moment to realize the creature was laughing, though there was no humor in it. No species in the galaxy can treat us. Our bodies exist in spaces your doctors cannot see or touch. The rot consumes us from within, from dimensions beyond your 3. We have searched for a cure for 300 years. There is none. The dragon's breathing sounded labored now, each breath a struggle. Jake noticed its scales were fading even as he watched, losing what little color they had left. My name is Drexus, the dragon continued. I have lived for 4,000 years. I have seen stars born and die. I have taught 100 species how to reach beyond their worlds. And now, at the end, I find myself afraid. Not of death itself, but of facing it alone in silence. I am glad you are here, small human. Will you stay with me until the end? I know it is much to ask. Jake swallowed hard. This magnificent creature, this ancient being that had lived longer than human civilization itself, was asking him for comfort. How could he say no? Even if he got in huge trouble. Even if his mom grounded him for a month. I'll stay, Jake said firmly. He sat down on the warm ground next to Drexus's massive head. Without really thinking about it, he reached out and placed his small hand on the dragon's scarred scales. The moment his skin made contact, something happened. A tingling sensation ran up Jake's arm, and a soft golden light bloomed beneath his palm. Both boy and dragon gasped in surprise. The golden light spread slowly across Drexus's scales like ripples on a pond. Jake stared at his hand, heart pounding. The warmth flowing from his palm felt different now, like electricity mixed with something softer, gentler. It didn't hurt, but it definitely wasn't normal. What's happening? Jake whispered, afraid to move. Drexus's massive eye widened, the golden color growing brighter. I do not know. This should not be possible. In 10,000 years of galactic history, no species has ever been able to touch us this way. Our biology exists partially outside normal space. We are here, but also not here. Do you understand? Jake didn't understand at all, but he kept his hand steady. Is it helping? The light, I mean. The dragon was silent for a long moment, and Jake could feel something happening beneath his palm. It was like touching someone's chest and feeling their heartbeat, except this heartbeat had layers to it, rhythms within rhythms that his brain couldn't quite process. The pain is less, Drexus said, wonder filling his mental voice. The rot is still there, consuming me from within, but it has slowed. How are you doing this, young human? I'm not doing anything, Jake insisted. I'm just sitting here. You are doing something. Your presence, your touch, it resonates with my quantum biology. This has never happened before. Never. The dragon tried to lift its head, struggled, then managed to raise it a few inches. That alone seemed to exhaust it. What is your name, miracle child? Jake. Jake Mitchell. I'm nobody special, really. I'm not even good at science class. The universe cares nothing for grades, Drexus said, and Jake could hear warmth creeping into the dragon's tone. Stay with me through the night, Jake Mitchell. Let me feel this strange gift of yours. Perhaps I will survive until dawn after all. Jake did stay. He fell asleep around midnight, his hand still resting on Drexus's scales, and woke to the sun rising over the valley rim. The dragon was watching him with both eyes now, fully open and alert. You look better, Jake said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The cracks in Drexus's scales hadn't vanished, but they weren't oozing anymore. The dull gray had shifted to a pale bronze color. I should be dead, Drexus replied. I should have died hours ago. Instead, I am stronger than I was yesterday. Jake Mitchell, I must contact my people. They need to know what has happened here. Before Jake could ask how a dragon made phone calls, Drexus's eyes began to glow. A beam of pure light shot from the dragon's forehead into the sky, piercing the clouds. Jake stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. People are definitely gonna see that, Jake said nervously. His secret dragon was about to become very not secret. That cannot be helped, Drexus said. This is too important. If humans can heal us, if your species holds the key to curing the void rot, then everything changes. Everything. Within 3 hours, the valley was no longer quiet. Jake heard the helicopters first, then saw military trucks rumbling down the old mining road. But the military wasn't alone. 3 more dragons descended from the sky, smaller than Drexus but still massive, their scales shimmering in shades of blue and silver and deep purple. Behind them came sleek alien ships that Jake recognized from news broadcasts. A female dragon landed nearest to them, her movements graceful despite her obvious weakness. Jake could see the same cracks in her scales, the same gray dulling of color. Drexus, she said, her voice entering both their minds. We received your beacon. The council did not believe your message. I am Valora, and I had to see for myself. Show me this human who can touch our biology. Jake stood up, trying not to look as terrified as he felt. Government agents were setting up a perimeter around the crater. Scientists in white coats were unpacking equipment. His mom was probably losing her mind with worry. I'm Jake, he said to Valora. I don't really know what I did. I just touched him and there was this light. Do it again, Valora commanded. Touch me. Let me feel what Drexus felt. Jake looked at Drexus, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, Jake walked over to Valora and placed his hand on her leg. The golden light appeared immediately, brighter this time. Valora gasped, her wings spreading involuntarily. Impossible, she breathed. I can feel it. The rot is slowing. The pain is fading. How? How is this possible? A woman in a military uniform approached the crater's edge, speaking through a megaphone. This is Colonel Hayes. Young man, please step away from the creatures. We need to secure this area. They are not creatures, Jake called back, surprising himself with his boldness. They are people. Really old, really smart people. And they are sick. I think I can help them. Drexus chuckled in Jake's mind. The boy is braver than most soldiers I have known. Over the next several days, the valley transformed into a massive research facility. Scientists from Earth and a dozen alien worlds worked around the clock, running tests on Jake, on Drexus, on the connection between them. Jake's mom was brought to the site and nearly fainted when she saw what her son had been doing. But even she couldn't deny the evidence piling up. Dr. Patterson, a human neuroscientist, explained it to Jake in simple terms. Your brain waves, Jake, they operate on a frequency we've never seen before. Well, we've seen it, but we thought it was just noise, random static. Turns out it's not random at all. It's like your consciousness exists in multiple dimensions at once, just a tiny bit. Not enough to notice in normal life, but enough to interact with the dragon's quantum biology. Is it because I'm special? Jake asked. Dr. Patterson smiled. We tested your mom. Your teachers. Random people from town. They all have it, Jake. Every human has it. We've been walking around with this ability our whole existence and never knew it because we never met anyone we could use it on. It's not that you're special. It's that humans are special, and nobody realized it until now. Valora's voice entered Jake's mind from across the facility. The boy asked if he was special. Tell him yes. Tell him his entire species is special. Tell him they have given my kind something we lost centuries ago. What's that? Jake asked. Hope. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within a week, every species from the core worlds to the outer rim knew the same impossible truth. Humans, the newcomers who'd only joined galactic society 5 years ago, could heal dragons. The species everyone had written off as primitive and unremarkable had suddenly become the most important civilization in known space. Jake watched it all unfold from his strange new life in the Valley Research Facility. His bedroom was now a trailer next to a landing pad where alien ships arrived every few hours. He'd gone from a normal kid worried about math homework to someone who had diplomatic meetings before breakfast. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. Another delegation is arriving, his mom said, poking her head into his trailer. She'd taken a leave from her nursing job to stay with him. The Dragon Council wants you to meet them. Something about proving the bond works with other dragons too. Jake nodded and pulled on his shoes. Over the past 2 weeks, he'd helped stabilize 3 more dragons. Each time, the golden light appeared. Each time, the void rot slowed. The dragons weren't cured completely, not yet, but they weren't dying anymore. That alone was a miracle. Outside, a massive transport ship was landing, kicking up dust and making the ground rumble. The door opened and 5 dragons emerged, each one looking worse than the last. Their scales were barely holding together, their movements slow and painful. Behind them came dozens of aliens from species Jake was still learning to recognize. Drexus limped over to Jake's side. The dragon was much stronger now, able to walk and even fly short distances. These are elders from the outer colonies. They have traveled for days to reach Earth. Many doubted they would survive the journey. Can I help all of them? Jake asked nervously. I mean, there's only one of me. Watch, Drexus said. A van pulled up, and 10 people climbed out. Jake recognized a few of them from town. There was Mr. Chen who ran the hardware store, and Beth from the library, and Tommy's dad who worked construction. Dr. Patterson had been recruiting volunteers all week, testing their ability to create the healing connection. We've got 20 more buses coming from the city, Dr. Patterson explained, approaching with a tablet full of data. Turns out any human can do this, Jake. You were just the first. We've successfully bonded 4 to 7 people with dragons so far. Every single one produces the healing effect. Jake felt relief wash over him. He didn't have to carry this responsibility alone. Humans could save the dragons. Not just him. All of them. But not everyone was celebrating. 3 days later, Jake was eating lunch with his mom when alarms started blaring across the facility. Soldiers ran for their positions. The dragons lifted their heads, suddenly alert. Valora's voice filled Jake's mind, sharp with urgency. We have detected a fleet entering your solar system. Military vessels. They are not responding to hails. Colonel Hayes burst into the command center, shouting orders. Jake and his mom were rushed into a bunker along with the other civilians. Through the narrow windows, Jake could see warships materializing in Earth's sky, hundreds of them, their hulls dark and covered in weapon ports. Who are they? Jake's mom asked, her voice shaking. An alien scientist nearby, one of the friendly ones who'd been helping with research, answered grimly. The Dominion Empire. They rule over 40 star systems through conquest and fear. They have been expanding into territories the dragons once protected. If the dragons recover their strength, the Dominion loses everything they've gained, Jake finished. His stomach twisted. They're here to stop us. To stop the dragons from being healed. The alien nodded. They are here to eliminate humanity before you can save our protectors. A massive holographic display flickered to life in the command center, showing a face Jake would learn to hate. Commander Vex of the Dominion fleet. He looked almost human except for the gray skin and the cold, calculating eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. People of Earth, Vex began, his voice smooth and threatening. Your species has interfered with the natural order. The dragons are dying as all things must die. Your attempt to prolong their existence threatens the stability of the galaxy. We cannot allow this. You have 24 hours to surrender all dragons currently on your planet and cease all healing efforts. If you refuse, we will be forced to take action. The transmission cut off. Silence filled the command center. Jake's mom pulled him close, and he could feel her trembling. President Clark's face appeared on another screen, broadcasting from an emergency bunker in Washington. We're trying to negotiate, but the Dominion isn't interested in talking. They want the dragons, and they want humanity to stop helping them. Our military is mobilizing, but we're outgunned by a factor of 50 to 1. Drexus landed outside the bunker, his massive head filling the window. Jake Mitchell, they want you to hide. To stay safe underground while others fight. But I must know, will humans continue to help us even if it means war? We dragons will leave Earth if that is what your people choose. We will not let you suffer for our sake. Jake looked at his mom. She was scared, he could see it in her eyes. But she squeezed his shoulder and nodded. We're not stopping, Jake said firmly. You came to Earth to die in peace. Instead, you found hope. We're not giving up on you just because some bully empire says we have to. Around the facility, other humans were saying the same thing. The volunteers who'd bonded with dragons. The scientists who'd dedicated themselves to understanding the connection. Even regular people from town who'd come to see the dragons and been amazed by their wisdom and kindness. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 5 years. Most species still saw humans as newcomers, inexperienced and naive. The Dominion expected humanity to fold immediately, to trade dragon lives for their own safety. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Valora's voice echoed across the facility, reaching every human and dragon present. 30 dragons remain alive in the galaxy. 17 are here on Earth, growing stronger each day because of human compassion. The Dominion brings 500 warships. It is not enough. Colonel Hayes looked skeptical. With all due respect, 17 sick dragons against 500 warships? The math doesn't work. Drexus's laugh rumbled like thunder. Colonel, we are not as sick as we were. And you forget, we did not come to Earth helpless. We came here to die with dignity. But if we must fight instead, if we must defend those who showed us kindness, then the Dominion will remember why the galaxy once feared dragon fire. The countdown began. 24 hours until war. The Dominion fleet hung in orbit like a dark cloud, blotting out the stars. Jake stood on the observation deck with hundreds of others, staring up at the warships through the reinforced glass. His mouth was dry. He'd seen war movies before, but this was real. Those ships had weapons that could crack continents. And they were here because of what he'd started in that crater 2 weeks ago. All civilians to the evacuation shuttles, a voice crackled over the intercom. This is not a drill. Repeat, all civilians to the evacuation shuttles. Jake's mom grabbed his hand. Come on, baby. We need to go. But Jake pulled back. Where? Mom, where are we supposed to go? Those ships are everywhere. There's nowhere on Earth that's safe. She didn't have an answer. Nobody did. The Dominion had positioned their fleet to cover every major city, every spaceport, every possible escape route. This wasn't an invasion. It was extermination. Drexus landed on the platform outside, his bronze scales gleaming in the morning light. He looked stronger than ever, the cracks almost completely healed. 2 weeks of connection with Jake had worked wonders, but was it enough? The deadline has passed, Drexus announced, his mental voice reaching everyone in the facility. The Dominion is moving into attack formation. They are targeting population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Delhi. They plan to strike all at once, to break humanity's will before the fighting even begins. Colonel Hayes slammed his fist on the tactical display. Our orbital defense platforms are ready. We've got support from the Galactic Alliance, but their nearest fleet is 6 hours away. We need to hold until then. 6 hours, someone muttered behind Jake. We'll be lucky to last 6 minutes. The first Dominion strike hit without warning. A beam of superheated plasma lanced down from orbit, striking an empty field 50 miles away. The shockwave rattled windows across 3 states. It was a demonstration, a promise of what was coming. Valora's voice cut through the panic. Dragons, to the sky. Humans, stay close to your bonded partners. Today we show the Dominion what they have forgotten. 17 dragons launched into the air, their wings beating with a sound like rolling thunder. Jake watched them go, feeling helpless on the ground. His mom held him tight, and all around them people were crying, praying, making last calls to loved ones. Then something unexpected happened. The golden light that Jake had first seen in that crater, the light that flowed between human and dragon, began to appear all over the facility. Not just from the 4 to 7 people who'd officially bonded with dragons. Everyone. Hundreds of people, all of them reaching out with their minds, their hearts, their uniquely human consciousness that existed between dimensions. What's happening? Jake's mom whispered, staring at her own hands. They were glowing softly, like she dipped them in liquid starlight. Dr. Patterson was frantically checking her instruments, her eyes wide with disbelief. They're connecting. All of them. Every human in range is forming resonance with the dragons. The bond isn't individual, it's collective. My God, we had it backwards. It's not one human, one dragon. It's all humans, all dragons. In orbit, the battle began. Dominion warships opened fire, filling the sky with streaks of deadly energy. Earth's defense platforms fired back, their railguns and missiles seeming pathetically small against the massive fleet. The dragons weaved between the attacks, breathing fire that could melt starship armor, but there were too many enemies, too much firepower. Then the collective bond activated fully. Jake felt it like a switch flipping in his brain. Suddenly he wasn't just Jake Mitchell from a small town. He was connected to everyone around him, thousands of minds all reaching out with the same desperate hope, the same refusal to give up. And through that network of human consciousness, he touched the dragons. All 17 of them at once. The power that flowed through that connection was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. The dragons weren't just healing anymore. They were transforming. Their scales blazed with light, their bodies growing larger, their fire burning brighter. The void rot that had been killing them for centuries evaporated like morning dew under the combined force of human compassion and determination. Drexus's voice boomed across every channel, every frequency, speaking directly into the minds of every Dominion soldier. You came here believing dragons were finished. You believed humans were weak. You were wrong on both counts. What happened next would be talked about for generations. The 17 dragons, supercharged by their connection to humanity's collective will, tore through the Dominion fleet like wolves among sheep. Dragon fire that had already been devastating now burned with the intensity of small stars. Claws that could rend metal now cut through energy shields like paper. And the dragons moved with perfect coordination, guided by the tactical thinking of thousands of human minds working as one. A Dominion battleship the size of a city block broke apart under Valora's assault, its pieces tumbling away into space. Another tried to flee and found Drexus waiting, blocking its path, his jaws closing on the ship's engine core. Explosions lit up the sky like fireworks. Commander Vex's face appeared on every screen, his calm demeanor finally cracking. Retreat. All ships retreat. This was not in the intelligence reports. The dragons, they're not dying anymore, they're evolving. Pull back now. The Dominion fleet scattered, ships jumping to hyperspace in a desperate rush to escape. In less than 20 minutes, it was over. The armada that had come to destroy Earth limped away, broken and humiliated. Humanity's first real war as a galactic species had lasted less time than a sitcom episode. Jake's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the observation deck, his whole body shaking. Around him, people were cheering, crying, hugging each other. His mom pulled him into a fierce embrace. You did it, she sobbed into his hair. Baby, you saved the world. It wasn't just me, Jake managed to say. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. It was everyone. All of us together. Drexus landed back on the platform, and for the first time since Jake had met him, the dragon looked truly alive. Not just surviving, but thriving. His scales shimmered with colors Jake hadn't seen before, deep bronze mixed with veins of gold and copper. Jake Mitchell, Drexus said, and his mental voice was warm with affection. You sat with a dying dragon in a crater and refused to let him face death alone. From that one act of compassion, everything changed. The Dominion will tell the galaxy what happened here today. They will say that humans are dangerous, that we dragons are too powerful now, that the old order is threatened. Are they right? Jake asked. Drexus considered this. The old order was built on strength and conquest. Perhaps it should be threatened. Perhaps it is time for a new order, one built on connection instead of domination. What do you think, young human? Jake looked out at the crowd of people, still glowing faintly with the residual light of the bond they'd formed. He thought about how scared everyone had been, and how that fear had transformed into courage when they stood together. I think, Jake said slowly, that the galaxy is about to learn what humans are really good at. And it's not fighting. It's caring about people, even when those people are ancient dragons who should be our enemies. 6 months after the battle, Jake stood in the lobby of the new dragon-human embassy, watching workers put the finishing touches on a massive statue. It showed a young boy with his hand on a dragon's scales, golden light spreading between them. He still couldn't believe they'd made a statue of him. It felt weird and embarrassing and kind of cool all at the same time. "Stop fidgeting," his mom said, adjusting his tie. "The delegates will be here any minute." Jake tugged at the collar. He hated formal clothes. Give him jeans and a t-shirt any day. But today was important. Today, representatives from 40 different species were coming to Earth to sign the new covenant, a treaty that would reshape how the galaxy worked. Drexus's voice rumbled in his mind. "You look uncomfortable, young friend." Jake glanced up at the dragon, who was perched on a specially reinforced balcony above the lobby. "I'm wearing a tie. Of course I'm uncomfortable. When I was your age, which was 3,000 years ago, young dragons had to wear ceremonial armor during important events. 50 pounds of metal plates. Consider yourself fortunate." That made Jake smile. Over the past months, he and Drexus had become true friends. The dragon had taught him about distant worlds and ancient history. Jake had taught Drexus about video games and pizza. It was a fair trade. The main doors opened, and the delegates began to arrive. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some floated, and one species rolled on wheels built into their bodies. Jake had gotten used to the diversity of galactic life, but it still amazed him. The universe was so much bigger and stranger than he'd ever imagined back in his old life. President Clark approached, looking tired but happy. She'd barely slept since the battle, working non-stop to navigate Earth's sudden importance in galactic politics. "Jake, I need you to meet someone. This is Ambassador Vorin from the Talaxian Federation. They've been trying to contact the dragons for 200 years with no success." The Talaxian looked like a walking tree made of crystal, its surface reflecting rainbow colors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Young human, my people have studied the dragons for generations. To think that your species accomplished in days what we could not achieve in centuries, it is humbling." "We just helped them," Jake said, shaking the ambassador's hand carefully. The crystal was warm to the touch. "They did the rest themselves." "That is wisdom beyond your years," Vorin replied. "Your people have a saying, yes? That it takes a village to raise a child. Perhaps it takes a galaxy to heal a dragon." The ceremony began an hour later in the Great Hall. Jake sat between his mom and Drexus, watching as species after species came forward to sign the covenant. The treaty did 3 major things. First, it established Earth as a protected world, with dragons and allied species guaranteeing its defense. Second, it created the Guardian program, pairing humans with dragons to serve as peacekeepers across the galaxy. Third, and maybe most important, it shifted galactic law away from conquest and toward cooperation. The Dominion Empire wasn't invited to sign. After their defeat, their territories had broken apart as conquered worlds took the chance to free themselves. Commander Vex was awaiting trial for war crimes. The empire that had seemed so powerful 6 months ago was now just a footnote in history. But not everything was perfect. Some species resented humanity's sudden rise to importance. There were protests on a dozen worlds, accusations that humans were getting special treatment. A few extremist groups had even made threats, though nothing had come of them yet. "Change is never easy," Valora explained during a private dinner that night. She was fully healed now, her scales a brilliant blue that seemed to hold entire galaxies within their depths. "The galaxy has operated on certain principles for millennia. Might makes right. The strong survive. Conquer or be conquered. Your species challenges all of that simply by existing." "We're not that special," Jake said around a mouthful of pasta. "We're just people." "Exactly," Drexus said. "Just people. People who saw suffering and chose to help instead of looking away. People who risked everything to protect strangers. Do you know how rare that is, Jake? Most species learn compassion slowly, over thousands of years of evolution. Humans seem to have it built into your very nature. That terrifies some civilizations because they do not understand it." Jake's mom reached over and squeezed his hand. She'd been quiet most of the evening, just listening and watching. "I'm proud of you, baby. Not because you're famous or important now. I'm proud because when you found a dying creature in that crater, your first instinct was to stay with him. That's who you are. That's who we raised you to be." The next morning, Jake prepared for his first official mission as a guardian. He was being paired with a young dragon named Ash, who'd been hatched after the void rot began and had never known life without sickness. Now, thanks to the human bond, Ash was healthy and strong and eager to see the galaxy. They were heading to a colony world called New Haven, where tensions between two species threatened to boil over into violence. The Dragon Council had requested human mediators, believing that humanity's unique perspective might find a peaceful solution. Nervous? Drexus asked as Jake packed his bag. Terrified, Jake admitted. What if I mess up? What if I make things worse? Then you will learn from it and do better next time. That is how wisdom grows, young friend. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to try. The shuttle ride to the spaceport felt surreal. 6 months ago, Jake had been worried about math homework. Now he was heading into space to help prevent a war. His old classmates were still in school, still living normal lives. Sometimes Jake missed that normalcy. Most times, though, he felt grateful for this strange, terrifying, wonderful adventure he'd stumbled into. Ash was waiting at the landing pad, practically vibrating with excitement. The young dragon's scales were silver white, and her mental voice bubbled with enthusiasm. Jake Mitchell. I have been studying your world's history. Did humans really land on your moon using nothing but primitive rockets and mathematics? That is amazing. Jake grinned. He liked Ash already. Yeah, we're pretty good at doing impossible things when we set our minds to it. As their ship lifted off, Jake looked down at Earth growing smaller below them. Somewhere down there, his mom was probably crying. She tried to be brave when they said goodbye, but he'd seen her lip trembling. Drexus had promised to check on her regularly, which made Jake feel a little better. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibilities. Jake thought about that day in the crater, when a dying dragon had asked him not to leave it alone. Such a simple request. Such a profound consequence. Drexus's voice reached across the distance, warm and reassuring. Go forward with courage, Jake Mitchell. Show the galaxy what humans and dragons can accomplish together. And remember, you are never alone. We are all connected now, across all the stars, through bonds that cannot be broken. Jake closed his eyes and felt it, that golden thread connecting him to Drexus, to Valora, to all the dragons and humans who'd formed the sacred bond. It hummed with life and hope and possibility. Ready? Ash asked beside him. Jake opened his eyes and smiled. Yeah. Let's go be guardians. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward new adventures, new challenges, new chances to prove that compassion was stronger than conquest. Behind them, Earth spun peacefully in the void. Ahead of them, a galaxy was learning what it meant when humans and dragons stood together. The age of isolation was over. The age of connection had begun. And it all started because one boy refused to let a dragon die alone.